Hello, student. Um, Welcome to this tutorial. So this marks to be the second part 2 of the renal physiology. If you didn't watch the previous introduction to renal physiology, you can kindly go back, watch the part 1, then you proceed to this one. Okay, so in the previous tutorial, we described the general structure of the kidney. From there, we give an overview of what to expect in this chapter. So the renal physiology. First of all, talking about the structures that are involved. So we talked about the structure of the kidney, the blood supply to the kidney. Then from there, we went on to talk about the nephron. Okay, so the nephron is a functional and structural unit of the vessels of the kidney. So we went on to describe classifications of a nephron. So in as much as a nephron itself is one, but they are component of a nephron. So on the components of a nephron, we looked at the tubular part, then we looked at the vascular part, and then the last part that we looked at was the tubulovascular classification. So the tubulovascular is the one in the previous lecture I was described to say that it's the juxtaglomerular apparatus, where the vascular and the tubular are meeting. Okay. So in this session, we are only going to concentrate more on the juxtaglomerular apparatus, where the vascular, the afferent, and the efferent are coming in the glomerulus, which is the Bowman's capsule, and where these two are actually meeting. Okay. So this is just the blood supply to the kidney from the interlobar artery, then the afferent artery, then they all reach at the glomerulus capsule, then this is a Bowman's capsule where they eat. So there's actually no direct connection here, if you can see. So it goes here, whatever goes here is through filtration. So I just want to get this part and explain what it contains and what its significance actually in the renal physiology. So if you get that, we actually about this structure, the major components of the juxtaglomerular complex. We have the juxtaglomerular cells, then we have the macular denser cells, and then we have the extraglomerular messenger cells. Now, when you look at this structure, okay, we have the macular denser cells, these yellow cells with more like eyes, blue eyes, these ones, which lines that are actually near the distal convoluted tube. Then we have the juxtaglomerular cells, which are actually near the afferent arteriole. They are more like close proximity to the afferent arteriole. Then around this, there's what we call a triangle, actually. So what form this triangle is actually this more like this triangle. It's more like triangular area. That's where they are what we call the extraglomerular messenger cells. Extraglomerular messenger cells are found in that triangle that I was describing here, this triangle. Okay. Now, let's look at what really are macular denser and what are juxtaglomerular cells and what are the extraglomerular messenger cells. What are they? Because these are the major component of the juxtaglomerular community. If I can say they are the ones which make up the juxtaglomerular cells. Okay. So the juxtaglomerular cells, then we have the macular denser cells and the extraglomerular messenger cells. So what are juxtaglomerular cells? These are actually specialized smooth muscle cells. They are located in the walls of the afferent arteriole, as I mentioned here, the afferent arteriole here. Okay. So what are these cells? These are juxtaglomerular cells. They are located along the afferent arteriole here. Okay. So which supplies blood to the glomerulus. So they are along the walls of the afferent arteriole, because the afferent arteriole are the ones which supplies blood to the glomerulus. Okay. So the G cells produce and stores renin. So the important part of renin is that it is involved in the formation of in the regulation of blood pressure. Okay, so renin is produced by the juxtaglomerular cells. What does renin do? Renin converts angiotensinogen into angiotensinogen 1. Then there's an angiotensin converting enzyme which converts angiotensinogen 1 to angiotensinogen 2. The angiotensinogen 1 is a vasoconstrictor. It constricts the blood vessels, but it's not strong enough. Therefore, the angiotensin converting enzyme produced from the lungs is the one which comes in to more like help. So these same juxtaglomerular cells, as I said, they produce the renin and an enzyme that plays a critical role in regulating blood pressure. So what does the renin does? The renin actually converts angiotensinogen. Angiotensinogen is an inactive vasoconstrictor. Once angiotensin 1 is converted into angiotensinogen, angiotensin is converted to angiotensin 1. Angiotensin 1 is not an active vasoconstrictor. So there is an enzyme from the lungs, which is produced from the lungs, the angiotensinogen converting enzyme. So this, what it does is it converts angiotensin 1 into angiotensin 2, which is a vasoconstrictor. It constricts the blood vessels. Once they are constricted, the pressure is increased. So if someone has low blood pressure, then that's going to be regulated. Or if they're at all they're having high blood pressure, they there will also be signals as these cells interact on how to regulate this blood pressure. Okay. So from there, we can go into the other part of the juxtaglomerular cells. We have the macular denser cells. These are specialized epithelial cells that are located in the distal convoluted tube, as I earlier demonstrated. What are these cells? These are these cells which are located along the distal convoluted tube here, the macular denser of the distal. So what are they? What is special about these cells? They're actually in their proximity to the afferent arteriole. The macular denser cells detect changes in the concentration of sodium ion in the tubular fluid and send signals to the juxtaglomerular cells to adjust renin release. So I told you that there is an interaction within these cells. So the macular denser cells, they sense the concentration of sodium. What sodium plays a critical role. So what does sodium do? The more you have sodium in the body, the level of sodium determines whether your BP is high or low. Okay. So when you have a lot of sodium at that point, more than what the body requires, your BP will be high because where sodium goes, it more like goes with water. Water follows where sodium goes. So whenever there is a lot of sodium, water follows that. So how does the increase in or hypertension comes about, increase in blood pressure comes about because water increases the blood volume. Once the blood is enough in the blood vessels, it means that it will be evenly distributed across the body. Okay. So these macular denser cells, they actually just sense the sodium ions in the tubular fluid and send signal to the juxtaglomerular cells, which releases renin. I said renin is the one which controls now more like direct control and indirect control of the blood pressure. Okay. By converting angiotensinogen into angiotensin 1, then eventually angiotensin converting enzyme converts angiotensin 1 into a potent vasoconstrictor, which is angiotensin 2. Okay, then we have the extraglomerular messenger cells. I said that these cells are actually located in this triangle. Okay, this triangular area here. This triangular area here, that's where the extramesenteric glomerular cells are located. Now, what role do they usually play? So these cells provide the structural support to the juxtaglomerular apparatus and facilitates communication between juxtaglomerular cells and macular denser cells. So these are the three major components of the juxtaglomerular apparatus. If at all they tell you to describe what the juxtaglomerular apparatus is, you need to state to say that there are actually three major components of juxtaglomerular apparatus. Okay, we have the juxtaglomerular cells, we have the macular dense and the extraglomerular messenger cells. Then you describe what each of the three does to the system. So the extraglomerular cell messenger, these provide structural support to the juxtaglomerular apparatus and facilitate communication between juxtaglomerular cells and the macular denser cells. Okay, now there are some important mechanism on how they perform their function. The function of juxtaglomerular apparatus. Why does it exist? If at all we can ask those questions. Why is it there? What's the significance of it being there? So the juxtaglomerular apparatus plays a critical role in regulating blood pressure and kidney function through two main mechanisms. These two main mechanisms, what are they? The regulation of blood pressure. Okay, I explained this on the regulation of blood pressure. They just help regulate blood pressure by controlling the amount of renin reduced by juxtaglomerular cells. The more the renin, the higher the blood pressure. The less the renin, the lower the blood pressure. Then the renin triggers a cascade. The cascade is more like a lot of activities in the process, reaction that ultimately lead to the production of angiotensin 2. I explained how angiotensin 2 comes about. Then this is a potent vasoconstrictor. Vasoconstrictor that it constricts, it more like reduces the lumen of the blood vessels. Once the lumen of the blood vessels reduces, then the pressure increases. It's not really different from the way, let's assume this is a hose pipe. The hose pipe water is running there, then you hold it more like you squeeze it together. You reduce the lumen. What happens to the water that is running there? The water comes with the stronger pressure. That's usually that happens in our body. So whenever renin reduces this blood vessel via the makeup of the angiotensinogen 2, then blood pressure increases. If it was low, it would have regulated. Okay. Then what other function? This is the tubular glomerular feedback. What does this feedback mean? So the juxtaglomerular apparatus help regulate glomerular filtration rate by detecting changes in sodium levels in the distal convoluted tube and adjusting afferent anterior diameter. This is a direct effect. Okay. So like once the sodium levels have been detected low in the distal convoluted tube, then the system via those three major components of describe, specifically the macular denser, they sense the sodium levels, then they will directly constrict the afferent arterioles diameter so that the blood pressure can be increased. So when sodium levels are in the distal convoluted tube are high, the macular denser cells send signal to the juxtaglomerular cells to decrease the renin release. Since the juxtaglomerular cells they decrease the renin release, but the macular denser cells just sense the levels of sodium. So once the renin release is decreased, we said that renin is the one which is involved in that cascade, the cascade of you know, converting angiotensinogen into angiotensinogen 1, then eventually angiotensin 2, which is a potent vasoconstrictor. Okay. Then the production of angiotensin 2 increases the afferent arterial diameter. Okay. So this increases blood flow to the glomerulus and increases the glomerular filtration rate. Glomerular filtration rate is just about how much blood reaches this system from the whole is from the entire circulation. So it's about per minute. How much does it filter blood into the tube from the vascular to the tube? It's about 125 milliliters per minute. That's the approximate rate of glomerular filtration rate. How does it do? So it regulates. Once that rate reduces, there are problems. Once that rate increases, there are also problems. Okay. So the key mechanisms is just about the renin release by the juxtaglomerular cells. Okay. Then everything I've explained here. Then the angiotensinogen 2 production. I've explained how everything happens. So renin triggers the conversion of angiotensin to angiotensin 1, which is then converted to angiotensin 2 by angiotensin converting enzyme. Angiotensin 2, a potent vasoconstrictor that increases blood pressure by constricting blood vessels. Okay, then there's also aldosterone regulation. So angiotensin 2 stimulates the release of aldosterone from the adrenal glands. Aldosterone promotes sodium retention in the kidney, which increases blood volume and blood pressure. So what does aldosterone do? So aldosterone is the hormone that is produced by adrenal glands. What it does is that increases the desire, the thirst, so that we can take enough water. Okay, so by doing so, it also promotes the sodium retention. Instead of sodium being secreted, it need to get back into the system. I said where sodium goes, also water follows, because this is what is a primary active transport. So as sodium goes into the bloodstream, also water follows along, then increasing the blood volume. Once the blood volume increases, then we are well and good. Okay, the blood pressure is normal. Then what is the clinical significance from what I've just discovered? So what the clinical significance is that any malfunctioning, any overactivation of renin, since renin, whenever there is overactivation of renin, someone can develop hypertension, meaning that the blood pressure is more than what is needed, is no longer regulated, like what I was explaining. Then kidney disease. Mind you, these kidneys, they work at a certain optimal pressure and they work at certain absolute levels. Then at this point, the blood pressure, the what is everything is abnormal. Okay. So damage to the juxtaglomerular apparatus or dysregulation of the LAS can contribute to kidney disease and progression to end-stage renal disease. Because these toxic substances, if they are not well filtered, they can easily destroy your kidney. Okay. So those are the clinical significance on that one. I hope you enjoyed the video. And if at all I made any difference, please you can actually like and subscribe to the channel.